week's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. On the heels of her latest victory this past weekend, veteran boxing scribe Michael Rothenstein stated Amanda Serrano was asked about Skye Nicolson and Alicia Baumgardner, saying they want to fight Serrano at 2 minutes. Nikisa Badarian said, well, then they are not fighting Amanda Serrano. Serrano and her team making it clear they want to fight 3-minute round fights from here on out.
Amanda Serrano has taken it upon herself to champion the cause of 12 3-minute rounds in women's boxing matches. That why shouldn't the women get the same time that the guys do?
There are some who feel that Amanda is using this to get out of fighting Skye Nicolson or get out of fighting Alicia Baumgardner. And I don't agree with these individuals, I don't. What I think we're looking at here is where Amanda Serrano used to be indifferent on the subject of 3-minute rounds, what may have changed her mind is the Katie Taylor fight. That in the Katie Taylor fight, she came very close to stopping her. And if there would have been more time in the round, who knows what would have happened? Who knows if she wouldn't have stopped Katie Taylor, because that's the most hurt anyone had ever seen Katie.
I mean, it is true that Amanda wasn't always this big an advocate for 12 3-minute rounds in women's boxing matches. I remember that before the Katie Taylor fight, she was asked about it, and in so many words, she said, well,
I don't need it.
I don't need 3 minutes to knock somebody out.
Though after coming close to knocking out Heather Hardy in the first round, and what happened in the Katie Taylor fight, I think that changed Amanda Serrano's perspective. She realized what it is the ladies are being deprived of, fighting for 2 minutes instead of 3 and fighting for 10 rounds instead of 12. Veteran boxing scribe Michael Rothenstein, responding to a Twitter user named Alim, stated, I didn't ask that question in the post-fight presser. Both Alicia and Skye made it clear this morning they'll fight at whatever the WBC decides, which remains 10 2-minute rounds as of now. As for Serrano and company's response to that question was relaying their stance, to which Skye Nicolson replied, I will be happy to fight Serrano under whatever ruling the WBC implements. My thoughts. I feel that if you put Skye Nicolson in the ring with Amanda Serrano right now, it's either Amanda wins the rounds on volume and activity, not dissimilar from what we saw with Danila Ramos this past weekend, or Sarah Mahfoud before her, that the aesthetic of a Serrano versus Nicolson match would look a lot like those fights. It's either she wins off of volume or Skye gasses out and gets stopped.
Because in the pros, Skye is a lot less experienced than those fighters, former champion Sarah Mahfoud or world title challenger Danila Ramos. She doesn't have the chops for this fight yet. That's what I feel. With Alicia, it's a little different.
With Alicia, it's different because she does have the chops for this fight, the necessary experiences, and like Amanda Serrano, she's an undisputed champion herself. But what about that performance-enhancing drug fiasco? What is going on with that? That if we're going to talk about a Serrano versus Baumgardner fight in realistic terms, is Alicia even at liberty to fight? Is she under a suspension of some kind? Is she going to be? And what would be the proposed weight for the contest? Is she expecting Amanda to move up and fight her? Or would she be moving down?
This is irrespective of whether or not you think Alicia is innocent or guilty. These are all questions that need answers, would need answers if you're trying to do a fight between Alicia and Amanda. Is Alicia even at liberty to fight her at this time or any time in the foreseeable future? That's a question that needs an answer.
Irrespective of who you're a fan of, I feel like Amanda Serrano's stance on 12 3-minute rounds has less to do with Skye Nicolson and less to do with Alicia Baumgardner and more to do with the time she feels women fighters are being deprived of. That on more than one occasion she came close to stopping her opponent, but because the rounds are so short, they end so fast.
She feels like the girls are getting the short end of the stick, and she would like for them to have the same amount of time to work that the guys do. That's what I think that whole thing is about. I don't think it's about Skye, and I don't think it's about Alicia.
Though as far as fighting either Sky Nicolson or Alicia Baumgardner, what you do have to ask yourself is, who's in control? Who's in charge? Who's the A-side fighter that dictates the terms at which the contest would take place? Is Sky Nicolson the A-side to Amanda Serrano? Is Alicia?
Are we intended to believe that these two fighters are going to dictate terms to Amanda?
That they have the power to do that? My question is, if all that stands between you and an Amanda Serrano fight are 12 3-minute rounds, is that not a sacrifice you're willing to make on the predication that Danila Ramos was willing to make it? Sometimes to get the A-side fighter in the ring, you do have to make concessions. I mean, Floyd had to make concessions to get Oscar De La Hoya in the ring. Canelo Alvarez had to make concessions to get Floyd in the ring. The concession here, it doesn't seem a very big one. Just more time in the round and more rounds in a fight. And if that's what's necessary to get Amanda in the ring, is that not a sacrifice that Sky would be willing to make, or Alicia Baumgardner, for that opportunity, the chance to fight Amanda? That's my question.
Because if nothing else, she is the bigger name. She is the A-side fighter to those fighters.
So is that asking for too much? That they do the same thing that Danila Ramos just did, what she just did willingly. We then come to yesterday's domestic scrap, a battle of the unbeatens between Fabio Wardley and David Adeley. I went with Fabio Wardley to win the fight, and win the fight by way of knockout. That outside of showmanship and a lot of bravado, a lot of talk, I hadn't seen anything from David Adeley, whereas Fabio shows a fantastic jab, a fantastic lead hand with good snap on it, and devastating power when he can bring over the backhand. And in the fight, you saw great distance control from Fabio Wardley and great poise.
He knew he had enough power to hurt David Adeley, to make a dent in him. He knew he had enough power, but he wasn't greedy.
Keeping the jab working. Great variations with the lead hand, upstairs, downstairs, in the middle, in the solar plexus, setting up the backhand,
Disguising it.
applying effective pressure with the jab on David Adeley, who almost immediately gave up ground. He couldn't hold the center of the ring, starts moving lateral, back against the ropes, relying on a big counter hook, a big counter to take out Fabio Wardley. It seems to me that David Adeley had a minimalist approach to things. He couldn't contend with Fabio Wardley's jab, the snap on it, and the speed, so he elected to try to catch him in between the punches. Aside from the occasional lead hook or the occasional exchange, he knew it wasn't safe to sit in the pocket with Fabio. This guy's got a lot of power and a lot of speed. So, for the majority of the fight, what you saw from David was him circling away from Fabio Wardley as Fabio employed the jab, made good use of it, good variety with the jab.
Deconstructing David, pecking away at him.
David, who I was never sold on, David, who's a much klugier, heavier heavyweight than Fabio Wardley, a leaner fighter.
With better fitness as opposed to what you see from David. All that musculature and all those muscles are eating up that much more oxygen.
Explosive at the start and strong, but a lot of fighters are in the first few rounds. It's as a fight progresses, round after round, that all that stuff starts to catch up with you. And the effective usage of the jab to peck away at David Adeley is essentially what deconstructed him, what broke him down. Fabio Wardley managing the distance, great distance control with the jab and the half step back. That if David Adeley does try for a big shot, Fabio wouldn't just sell out and trade with him. He'd either block the punch, get under the shot, or take a half step back to get out of range of the punch and reset. Get back on his jab and regain control. Don't allow David Adeley to gain any momentum or any confidence. It was a class performance from Fabio Wardley throughout, not just the highlight reel knockout.
But how he set it up.
It's one of those fights that would serve as a great educator, a great film study on the importance of the jab and why it's often dubbed the most important punch in boxing. The jab, more than anything, is what helped to break down David Adeley. They're both strong guys in the exchange. They both have big power, and anything can happen if they just go balls to the wall and trade. But it's actually the jab.
David couldn't get around it, didn't have the upper body movement or the head movement to fight on a swivel, get past that jab or come in behind it and put punches together. Fabio looked fantastic. It was in the 7th round.
Both boys are in a clinch, and Fabio creates a bit of space to get some punches in there, puts together a right hand, then a left hand. And it's the left hand that sealed the deal. It's the left hand that landed flush and sent David Adeley to the canvas for the first time in the fight. at which point he's given a count, he's allowed to continue, the contest is allowed to go on, and Fabio Wardley, smelling blood, goes in for the kill, puts together a salvo of punches, at which point the referee waves it off. And David Adeley, he was clearly upset. He actually went to hit the ref.
I think it was his right hand that he touched him to the body.
And I'm sure that he's going to regret doing that. I'm sure that he will be subject to a fine and some kind of a suspension for putting a glove on the ref. You're not supposed to touch the ref.
David is a schmuck. He has the air of a schmuck, the characteristic of a putz.
Prides himself on being some kind of a street guy. This is what he uses to talk himself up. But there's no substitute for actual boxing acumen. There is no substitute in a boxing ring for ability, no matter how much you talk yourself up in a press conference. And having seen David in action, I wasn't convinced.
Well, he's a good talker. He's definitely a good talker. He can sell a fight, but he's one of these guys who can sell a fight better than he can win one.
Ahead of it, Fabio's grooming process and his overall boxing acumen seemed a lot better to me, so the prediction stuck, and Fabio Wardley lived up to my expectations. One of the best domestic-level heavyweights the United Kingdom has in circulation. Congratulations to him for that highlight reel knockout. He continues to impress. And finally, we come to the main event of that same card, what was billed as the Battle of the Baddest. The scorecards in reference to it: 95-94 Ngannou, 96-93 Fury, 95-94 Fury for the winner by split decision.
Is it at all in keeping with the reputation that Fury has amassed in some circles, not mine?
But some who consider Tyson Fury this era's best heavyweight, and perhaps even the best heavyweight boxer that boxing has ever produced. That he should go to the cards, he should win a split decision against what is a debutante who never boxed before. No amateur experience, no white-collar fights, and certainly no pro experience. Is it in keeping with the reputation that Fury has amassed over time that a debutante should go the distance with him, and not just go the distance with him, but knock him down? Knock him down in between the punches in the third round. This fight has left a lot of people scratching their heads. That how could Tyson Fury be this all-time great heavyweight? And even if he's not an ATG, even if he's just the best of this era, how could he be the best of this era and be taken the distance and sat on his back pocket by a debutante? How do you make that make sense?
Well, maybe it's because he's not the best of this era, and he never was. Perhaps it's because you fell into the hype, you believed it, and you were lied to.
Maybe it's because you didn't listen to guys like me who told you, this guy's a fraud, this guy's a con man. All the praise he's receiving is on the predication of what he did to Deontay Wilder, but Deontay Wilder was never that good to begin with.
How do you go from being a fidgety boxer who's not really big on power, doesn't really take the best punch, to being dubbed the best heavyweight that heavyweight boxing has ever produced? How does that happen?
How did it, I should say. And it happened when people blew the Deontay Wilder fight, the Deontay Wilder fights, out of proportion, while they were entertaining and they were exciting.
After he scraped the points decision win in what was a god-awful fight against Vladimir Klitschko, nobody was regaling Tyson Fury as the best heavyweight of this era or the best heavyweight of all time. So whatever postmodern sentiments existed about Tyson Fury, they had less to do with the Klitschko fight and more to do with the Wilder fights. Rest assured.
No one thought Tyson Fury was the best heavyweight of all time based on how he looked with Klitschko, or Seferi, or Francesco Pianetta, or Tom Schwartz, or Otto Wallin. All of this started when he beat Deontay Wilder in the second fight. But since when was Deontay Wilder the best heavyweight of this era? And since when was he the best heavyweight of all time that beating him
would make Tyson Fury the best heavyweight of all time? This fight has left a lot of people with a lot to reflect upon, and we are going to talk about it, not just in this video.
First and foremost, what needs to be understood is that Tyson Fury isn't what he says he is. He's not what you think he is, and that's the only reason that Francis Ngannou did better than expected. No, it's not that Francis is a savant. It's not that all of a sudden he developed the same ability and muscle memory of a trained pugilist who's been a pugilist for years. It's not that.
It's not that Francis Ngannou is that good. It's that Tyson Fury is that bad.
Though he didn't have me fooled. I've been telling you throughout that while those Wilder fights were exciting, that doesn't automatically make Tyson Fury the best heavyweight this era has produced, and certainly not the best heavyweight in all the annals of boxing history. A ridiculous proposition that I've dispelled many, many times here on this channel by those who were too willing to crown him for having done what?
Taking a 2-year hiatus from the sport because he's being investigated by the BBBOC and UCAD?
It can't be because he beat the likes of Sefer Seferi and Francesco Pianetta. Can't be because he beat Tom Schwarz or Otto Verlaine. Is it because he fought the same guy 3 times the last 5 years? That's supposed to make him the best heavyweight of all time. Yesterday was a wake-up call.
The collective grief and embarrassment the boxing world is feeling today because some people tried to tell you that this guy is our best. This is the best that our sport has to offer. I tried to tell you, no it isn't.
And now you're seeing it at the expense of the sport itself. The collective embarrassment that the Fury family...
Tyson Fury was no more able to create separation between himself and a novice than his younger brother Tommy Fury was able to create between himself and Jake Paul.
Coincidentally, the both of them were sat on their back pockets by novices they're supposed to be able to outclass easily. So what does that tell you? That tells you that these guys are not as good as you think they are. No, it's not the sport. The sport itself you have to question. It's the pundits. It's the media that propped him up. It's his opponents.
Now do you see what I was telling you about Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury?
If you don't now, if you still don't, you will. I won't be able to fit all my thoughts into just one segment or one video.
And I am gonna enjoy this.
This is gonna be a slow burn, which is no less than Tyson Fury and his supporters collectively deserve. I'm not about to let the entire sport of boxing be taken down a peg because a few imbeciles propped up this idiot as our ambassador. He was never my king.
He was yours.
I tried to tell you he's nothing but a con man, a shyster with the gift of gab, a silver tongue and a charismatic personality, but outside of that, he's all smoke and mirrors.
It's just too bad that it took an MMA fighter to expose that instead of a pugilist.